I've been dreading making this video because I know I'm going to get hate comments, especially from the left, and nobody likes hate comments online. I used to proudly call myself a liberal. I still believe in equality, healthcare access, LGBTQ+ rights, definitely science and social programs. But I've grown really tired of the performance, the fear-mongering, and the refusal to have real conversations. I don't want to be here to scream or cancel or shame somebody into agreeing with me. I believe that we need to listen to each other even when we disagree, because change doesn't happen in an echo chamber. I'm not switching sides. I'd say I'm stepping out of the label. I'm an independent, logic-based thinker who's done letting political parties define my humanity. I'm still progressive, but I care more about the truth than tribalism. You can fight for justice without losing your critical thinking. If you want to argue, go talk to somebody else. But if you're ready to listen, then I'm all ears. Not everything needs to be red versus blue. And for example, here's some things that I know we can agree on. Our healthcare is broken. You shouldn't go bankrupt just because you got sick in red or blue states. Big corporations, for example, have too much power. They lobby both parties, and working people end up paying the price. Veterans and the elderly deserve better care, period. No excuses. Mental health matters. It's not woke to want trauma support, for example, especially for kids and veterans. The middle class is being squeezed by inflation, housing costs, and endless debt, which is just not sustainable. We need civil liberties. Your right to speak, worship, protest, own property, and make personal choices. I think another thing that we could agree on is that we both need to protect democracy, which means fair elections, checks and balances, and yes, accountability for every party. And this is the one that's going to piss you liberals and you Democrats and anybody on the left off. Nobody should be hated for how they voted. Basically, what I mean by that is no one should be sliced for asking questions. I'm not here to hate conservatives. I'm definitely not fucking here to blindly follow liberals. I'm here because I want to bridge the gap and speak truth and hopefully make this country less divided and a hell of a lot smarter. And if that makes me hard to categorize, then good. I just don't want to associate myself with a party that is screaming into the void. I don't want to associate myself with a party who doesn't understand that productive conversations mean something. If you guys really wanted change, you wouldn't be sitting here calling every fucking conservative uneducated idiots. Conservatives are capable of having conversations, and for everybody on the left to accuse them of just being incapable of that, you're not making any changes. You're not going to have productive conversations. All you're going to do is push people more to not understanding your points. If you're trying to come at somebody with something that you know is a fact, don't insult them about it. You say it's hard to have conversations with conservatives, but it's the way that you approach them. And it's associated with the left now. The left is just like these angry fucking people who can't have conversations as far as the conservatives are concerned. I'm not switching parties, but I sure as fuck don't want to be associated with the left anymore. I want to be able to make real change and have real conversations, and I'm not going to get that done.
Hey guys, no half-ass gardening tips for you today. This is just a public message, I guess. I was an old school Democrat. I will never vote a fucking Democrat ever. I was a purple party independent. You lost me. I'm all red now. When you celebrate and rejoice in the murder and assassination of someone who just was giving a different point of view than what you're used to in the fucking colleges these days, you are and will always be part of the problem if you're rejoicing in that. He was a family man. He just came and was respectful to everybody and was assassinated for it. It's fucking pathetic. And so has what the Democratic Party has become.
So far, I've seen videos of just the left being pro-unaliving political opponents, whether that be Trump, J.D. Vance, people celebrating what happened to Charlie Kirk today. It's just disgusting behavior. The fact that I have been a part of the left for 7 years, I never thought we'd get to the point where I would have to look at my own party and be like, oh, hold on, I can't support you anymore because everything that you are doing right now is against your political viewpoints and your values and beliefs. To sit here and promote gun violence against your opponents is wrong. And it arguably makes you worse than the other side because you're basically saying these people deserve to be unalived because our political beliefs are more important and should stand and should have more value than a human life. Ooh. Yeah, that doesn't sit right with me at all.
I think we all knew this video was going to stir the pot. The clips you're about to see are from people who once proudly called themselves Democrats or liberals, and now they're saying no thanks. Some call themselves independents, some are flipping all the way red, and some just want nothing to do with either party. And honestly, whether you agree with them or not, the frustration is loud. Let's get into it.
The death of Charlie Kirk has actually fundamentally changed the rules of the game, at least for me. I actually have never uploaded this type of content specifically to this TikTok page, and I'm actually resurrecting it because of the death of Charlie Kirk. Because back in 2020, I used to be on the other side. I voted for Joe Biden back in 2020, and then 4 years later, I voted for Donald Trump. And it's insane to me that a political party that says that they have my best interests in mind as an African American are willing to go to no end to destroy not only the things that I stand for, but the things that I believe in as a Christian, as a husband, as a father, and as a fellow American who loves this country and believes that the United States still is and has the potential to be the greatest nation on the face of the earth. And there are those people that are out there that will sit back and they will laugh and they will ridicule and they will judge, even though they say that is not what they stand for. And at this point, anything that they say, anything that the media says, believe the opposite. Because that's where the truth actually lies. They tell you a vaccine is good for you. It's not. They tell you that Joe Biden is a good president. He wasn't. They tell you that Donald Trump is Hitler. He's not. They tell you that they're there to support the migrants and the Hispanics and the African Americans, but they're not. They say that they care about the working class, but they don't. Anything that they say, flip it upside down, and that's the actual truth. Think about it.
I am absolutely sick over what happened to my brother in Christ, Charlie Kirk. Charlie had pulled me out of the liberal hellhole I had fallen into. I had the privilege of being on Turning Point USA for what happened to me with the COVID-19 vaccine. I went viral, the left silenced me, but Charlie and Turning Point USA gave me a voice. And that let me know that they stood for what's right, not silencing people, but letting people share their opinions. What's taking place is not just political, but demonic. I have absolutely nothing to do with the left or liberal ideology from this moment on. We lost a great young man. It's time to be bold. We will not let that scrawny punk that shot Charlie stop us or threaten us in any way. Now is the time to carry the torch that Charlie had furthered, to keep furthering God's kingdom. As Martin Luther King said, a threat to justice anywhere is a threat to justice everywhere. Charlie was murdered for sharing his opinions and sharing the love of Jesus. As my brother said, let's make this a turning point for America.
You and millions of other Democrats, in ordering this assassination, the same three people in this video who ordered it, AOC, Rankin, and the other clown, they ordered this. They demanded this. This was Democrat policy. If anybody remains in the Democrat Party after this, Democrat Party ordered assassination, you're complicit. The Democrat Party is now a domestic terror group.
I would like to take this opportunity to congratulate the Democrats. Congratulations, you have single-handedly alienated the last group of people, the last demographic that you had going for you. Over the past several years, the left has alienated people more and more to their cause, and it has caused many folks that used to be a cinch as a voter base for the left to vote for the Democrat Party in elections. For the longest time, it was the black community, but after 35 years of empty promises and no progress that offered equal opportunity and equal change and promised the prosperity of the black community, better education, better schooling. After 35 years of promising the black community you would do something for them, they eventually woke up and found out that you weren't doing jack fucking shit for them. Moving on, next you had the immigrant vote. But seen as in the past couple of elections, you have conflated both legal and illegal immigrants as one homogenous group. Now you have alienated the legal immigrants, who are the voter base on which you will win elections with. Legal immigrants, whether they are from Mexico, Venezuela, Haiti, does not matter where they come from, are voting overwhelmingly red from now on because you have decided to lump them in with the very people they despise. Illegal immigrants make it far worse and much harder to overcome stigmas and stereotypes of the immigrant journey to national or naturalized citizens. I don't know why you would ever try to say that, oh, it doesn't matter whether you're an illegal immigrant or an illegal immigrant, we welcome you both the same. All you're communicating to legal immigrants is that you do not see them as any different from the people that actively break the law to be here. So you've alienated them. So you've lost the black vote and you've lost the immigrant vote. And now you're losing young people. Charlie Kirk's death is not admissible. It is not something to celebrate, to relish in, to cheer on, to watch back and laugh and giggle with your friends because somebody that you believe to be fascist is no longer able to speak their mind. The left believes, apparently, for what all I've heard the last couple of election cycles, is that the left is the party of acceptance, of love, of tolerance, but that's not true. You have proven that the left only cares about one narrative, and if you go against that narrative, they are willing to resort to violence and take your life if you disagree. For all of the name-calling and buzzword throwing, stuff like fascist, bigot, intolerant, white nationalist, whatever, you've taken the man's words out of context. You've twisted his words. You decide that you can't beat him. You can't debate him, you can't talk to him, you can't silence him with words, you can't bully him offline. So you decide to take a father and husband away from his family. His children were present there, and I see all over the internet, whether it's on Twitter, whether it's on Reddit, whether it's on TikTok, people celebrating and cheering on these deaths. Professors at universities are kicking students out of their class for those students simply suggesting that maybe we shouldn't be laughing and cheering at the fact that somebody lost their life. Educators are kicking students out of class for having basic common courtesy and human empathy for one another. And we're not supposed to believe that these schools exist simply to brainwash people into believing what the far left has taught them to believe. We're really supposed to accept that. I want it to be known, this will not be something I do often. I am making a political post, but I am not a political profile, nor do I wish to be. I post silly videos about comic book movies and video games and other types of media. That's my lane. But I won't be silent on this issue. The left proved that for all, again, the name calling, saying that Charlie Kirk was a fascist, what do you call it when you silence someone with violence, with death, assassinating someone for exercising their right to free speech because you don't agree with it? What is that if not fascism? If you're one of my followers and you celebrated the death of Charlie Kirk, please unfollow me. If it comes to light, if I somehow find out that you are cheering on and relishing and celebrating and mocking the death of, a father, a husband, I will block you. You will be removed from following me. I do not want you in my community. It does not matter what you thought of the man. I myself agreed with maybe 40 to 50% of the things that came out of his mouth. He's a little bit too far to the right for my liking, but that never, ever once made me think it would be great if somebody took him out. Whether he believes in empathy or not does not mean that you are given a free pass to be unempathetic to him and not be called vile, not be called pathetic, not be called sociopathic, narcissistic, evil. You are a repugnant person if you have done so. And again, to the left, you have lost the youth. That is the final bastion, the final frontier of the left support is the youth. Gen Z and Gen Alpha are to be your voter base, and you have done a great job in radicalizing them and brainwashing them to believe wholly in the left's message. But now we're seeing young folks on the left side of the spectrum switching sides now because of the ridiculously evil, vile response to Charlie Kirk's unfortunate passing. You did it with Rush Limbaugh before, and people gave you somewhat of a pass on it. But now you've done it to somebody who wasn't a political figure, but was merely a commentator. Somebody who spoke eloquently, spoke well, was respectful, had poise, had basic human decency for those he debated. Never went out to mock people, never went out to insult people, never went out to incite violence or to incite harm upon others that disagreed with him. And you have snuffed out that voice because you couldn't beat him with words and you resorted to the only language that you seem to understand. I'll end it with this. To be the party of love, acceptance, and tolerance, you have to be better than the people that you loathe, even in private. Hate cannot drive out hate. Only love can do that. Discredit Dr. King's words as much as you like because he was unfaithful. That's always the insulation people use to discredit Dr. King's teachings, is that he was unfaithful, so maybe we shouldn't treat him as a role model. He did more for the civil rights movement than almost anyone. And it is his efforts and his belief that people could be decent and human and kind and have empathy and understanding for one another that brought people together. The left only believes in division. Don't believe in division. When you act like this, when you conduct yourselves in this way, gleefully relishing in the murder of a man who simply spoke his mind, all you are proving is that you are the real fascists. And if there's any way to lose the young people, it is by engaging in the stratagem and dogma of fascism. Be better, mature, and grow emotionally and intellectually. I am begging at this point. You have to have conservatism and progressivism. Let me say that again. You have to have conservatism and you have to have progressivism. I can't even say it. I'm starting to lose my composure here. So I'm going to end it by saying this. You have to have both. There are times when the country needs to stay steady and maintain the course, and that is where you need conservative values. And then there's times where the laws need to be changed, where progress has to be made, where something has to be done a different way that hasn't been tried before. And that's what you need progressives for. One cannot exist without the other. It's a pendulum. It's yin and yang. A man died. A wife and two very young children who will have to grow up the rest of their lives without a father are going to have to do so knowing that people mocked and celebrated their father's death, all because he spoke his mind. Whether you agree or disagree with him is besides the point. Be better, do better, and even when you think the people on the other side of the aisle are vile and pathetic and evil, extend kindness to them. It's the only way that you'll ever make any positive change in the world. Thank you.
First, you hear a lot of people saying the same thing. I didn't leave my values, but my party left me. Healthcare costs, corporate greed, veterans not getting the care they deserve, the middle class drowning in bills, none of those are partisan issues. And yet, people feel like political labels have become echo chambers where disagreement equals exile. Some of these TikTokers are saying, I'm still progressive, but I refuse to blindly follow a tribe. Others are saying, I used to be blue, now I'm red because at least one side still listens.
I'm tired of arguing with these Democrats, especially these Democratic women. Y'all can't even pick the right baby daddy. How the fuck can y'all pick the right president? My name is Tiffany. I lost 150 pounds in 2.5 years, and I also report different news topics. Tap in.
The Democrat Party is going to have a serious come to Jesus moment if you expect to survive even through the midterm elections. The calls of racism the claims that Charlie Kirk was a bigot, the using of half or partial context of the quotes that he has had, failing to comprehend the entire quotation of what he said, the whataboutism, where you're trying to point to other instances of political violence, which just end up being more leftist political violence, like Melissa Wortman in Minnesota, which none of you had ever heard of. We'd heard of her because we're actually astute observers of politics, and we know what happened there. None of you even knew her name until 4 or 5 days ago. We know that the person who killed Melissa Hortman and her husband and then targeted another Democrat state senator did that because they both had just crossed party lines and voted against Democrats. And the guy actually even wrote a letter to the FBI saying that he had been approached by Tim Walz to free up a Senate seat. You guys understand? And then Josh Shapiro, right? So you're doing whataboutism, you're pointing at Josh Shapiro's house being set on fire by an arsonist who was a pro-Palestine, anti-Israel radical who targeted Josh Shapiro because Shapiro was supporting Israel. You see, what you've done here when you're pushing out all of these half-truths, these lies, these claims of racism, of bigotry, is in martyring Charlie Kirk, you've created millions of more people who are actually now sitting down and watching what Charlie Kirk actually said. Every time you use one of his quotes out of context, every single time I see it, your comments are or your videos and your posts are ratioed by people playing or quoting the entire thing, which when you do that, everybody's like, well, that's actually right. Charlie Kirk was right. You're creating millions more Charlie Kirks. You're converting them from your zero-sum death cult, which is the Democrat Party, is in a death spiral because you have no vision. You have no platform. You have no plans for this country that don't involve calling someone a fascist or literally Hitler or racist or being against everything. You have no positive emotion about anything. That's why your party's dying.
So when I moved to Oregon and then to Washington, Portland, and Seattle from Arkansas, I did it because I wanted to live somewhere less conservative. Believe it or not, I had been a registered Democrat for a while at that time. When I finally left the Democratic Party, it was after a decade, and that was in 2021 after living in Seattle and Portland for a little while. I quickly realized that the Democrats in charge of both states were not traditional liberals. They're woke, and they're quite fascist and tyrannical in many ways. They do a lot of things that are not in the best interest of the general public. They also go against the wishes of the majority much of the time. They tend to implement very radical policies rather than liberal policies. They're anti-liberal in a lot of ways because they don't really care much about crime. They don't really care much about safety, law, and order. And to be liberal, I would argue that you have to put a huge emphasis on law and order because it's how you're going to keep your society safe. It's how you're going to keep everyone agreeing to disagree, because there's certain things that we don't do, like damage other people's property and put Yahtzee signs on people's stuff because we think that someone else is a fascist. Those sorts of things, you know? So I quickly left the Democratic Party. This was in 2021. And I joined MAGA, realizing that MAGA and Donald Trump are not traditional Republicans, nor are they traditional conservatives. They're more libertarian or liberal than any conservative or Republican that I had ever met from down south. Honestly, the Republicans in Washington state, they're pretty MAGA, you know? They don't really care too terribly much about the abortion issue. They're not trying to go after that. They're not trying to go after adults being trans and those sorts of things. They don't want children to receive gender hormone treatment for gender affirming care and things like that. People that are minors under the age of 18. They're very liberally social. The Republican Party in the Northwest seems to be very liberally social. However, Their voice is not very loud and there's not a lot of them within representation, right? But I just wanted to say, there's woke people who, oh my God, you can't stand against wokeism. It's like, unfortunately for you guys, I think that's where most traditional liberals are at these days. We've seen it enough now for a few years, and we've seen you guys become more belligerent throughout time to the point where we're just fucking sick of it. And many of us, like myself, were willing to vote for Donald Trump over continue to put up with woke bullshit disguised as democracy, because I see it as corrosive. But either way, I wish that Washington State, because I live here now, so I consider it home, I wish Washington State were more liberal and less woke. It's the wokeism I have a problem with, not the liberalism.
As a black man who's been told his entire life by Democrats that Republicans are pure evil, I'm now going to share my top reasons why I am no longer a Democrat. Democrats, for some reason, love to take the side of ideas and thinking that make absolutely no fucking sense. Example, any issue that is an idea or way of thinking that is an 80-20, they always go with the 20%. And what's crazy, the 80% will be right than the motherfucker. But just so they can make it seem like they're ahead of the curve, man, they always go with the 20%, even if it's dead ass wrong. Always. Reason number 2. Democrats do not believe in having a rational, reasonable conversation if you do not agree with them. And I'm sorry, but that's just not how human beings work. We are meant to have discourse and conversate and learn about each other and disagree and agree when we feel that way. And at the end of it, we go, hey, so where you want to go eat? That is the human experience. And I'm sorry, Democrats right now, it seems like all they think about is, oh my God, he disagreed with me. Oh my God, he doesn't agree with me. Oh my God, he disagreed with me. I'm sorry, but I cannot be a part of a party that's doing that, because that's not a party. That is a cult. And I don't want nothing to do with that shit.
Even when I voted Democrat, and I was very outspoken about my beliefs, not once, not one time did a conservative or a Republican call me a name. They never made fun of me, and they never even remarked on my skin color. Now that I'm openly conservative and I support Trump, and my beliefs actually align with my Christianity, Democrats and leftists have called me all the names in the book. They've sworn at me, they've cussed me out, they've cut off friendships, childhood friends and family members, people who actually know me. And they've also made fun of me for being a person of color who votes Republican. And they've pointed out my skin color to me. Basically, they treated me the way that they said Republicans and conservatives do. They've done everything they've accused them of doing.
Don't scroll. Don't scroll, because I am about to show you a video that if nothing else has changed for you today, if this video doesn't make you question your choices, if you have voted for the left, if you are a liberal, I invite you to look at yourself in the mirror and ask yourself why the hell you are voting for these people. When Representative Boebert asked for a moment of silence today on the Senate floor to pray for Charlie Kirk before we knew whether he had survived or not, these were your people, Democrats. Enjoy.
The Colorado rise.
Shh.
Let's wait a minute. The House will be in order. 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 We will join prayer right after this, okay?
Everyone's telling their walk away from the Democratic Party stories, and here's mine. When Trump was elected in 2016, I literally thought the world was ending. My husband and I would argue I was deranged. My husband had encouraged me to try to do my best to listen to both sides. So for the 2020 election, I made the commitment that I was going to watch the DNC, the RNC, take in as much information that I could about both sides, make a decision from there. First night of the DNC, I was like, okay, let's see what's going on. They came out of the gate, defund the police. Some of you may know, but my husband is a police officer, and I was like, wait a minute, I don't agree with that. Defunding the police would be dumb, because then we're going to have more crime. Then we won't have good police officers. They then started talking about transitioning children, weak border security, free everything for everyone. And I was like, that doesn't make sense. So then I watched the RNC. They were saying how much they love the police, that we need more training for police, that we need more money for police. Leave the kids alone. Tight border security. And I was like, I like this. So then naturally the Don was running and I started getting a kick out of watching him debate people. Because I was like, man, he really makes these people look like morons. Are they morons? And when he didn't win the election in 2020, I was like, okay. Well, I guess we'll move on with life and see what happens next time. Insert the horrific Afghanistan pullout, the weak border, our economy going to ish, and, the mandatory pokes. Tons of people losing their jobs simply because they didn't want to comply. And that is not something I agree with. And here comes all the pro-choicers. My body, my choice. Yeah, to a certain point. And then it's just... Then our last election was rolling around, and I found myself talking about politics way more than my husband ever did. Because I was like, none of this is common sense. How are people aligning with this? How could anyone vote for Joe Biden? He is not mentally there. And they had the debate where it was abundantly clear that Joe Biden had no business being out of the basement, let alone running our country. Insert Kamala. And then I was like, no way people are going to vote for this woman. She is an absolute idiot. Of course, you look at it like, they just don't like Trump. There's no way they actually like Kamala. Got it. And just like I've done with the last 2 election cycles, when 2028 rolls around, I will be watching everything and make the best choice for who I most align with. I encourage you to do that as well.
Why I am no longer on the left, even as a lesbian. And yes, I'm going to read what I wrote down because it's quite a list. It has been maybe half a decade, maybe even more, that I've decided to leave the left, and this is why. What I have observed is that the community pretends to fight for inclusivity, diversity, and freedom. But I've seen with my very own eyes for years now that realistically they fight for one-way thinking, the demonization of specific groups that are other than them, and the cancelization of freedom of speech. They say they care about human life and people who are victims of war, but advocate for the killing of the most vulnerable type of human life form in existence. They fight against the legalization of guns, but cheer when guns are used to assassinate a man who simply had a different opinion. They cancel free speech under the label of hate speech, when often enough, it's not hate speech, it's just speech they hate. Not to mention the complete lack of self-awareness to go from saying somebody is speaking hate speech and follow up with saying some of the most disgusting and degrading things to humans I have ever heard. Don't even get me started on the GoFundMe that was made for the murderer of that innocent girl. There have been too many examples of narcissism, manipulative abuse, gaslighting, closed-minded and anti-growth promotions within the community that I'm very proud to say that as the first letter of the LGBT, being gay does not automatically mean that I have to share the same sickening, in my opinion, views as the left. Why would my sexuality, gender, race, or anything for that matter have to do with where I land politically? And quite honestly, I hear more LGBT members complaining about being misgendered than any other actual hate crime happening in the world. If being misgendered is your main point of how you're being oppressed in this country, I would consider you to be very privileged because there are actual, real issues that need healing in the world more than your gender pronouns. My mind, body, and soul knows where love is, and I do not feel that in the community. Yes, there are positive and negative on both sides, but overall, I have been my most mentally healthy, happy, and filled with self-love person since I decided to think more for myself and not allow others to dictate what I should and shouldn't believe in order to fit their agenda. It is getting painfully obvious now that no one is going to be fucking with that energy anymore, and you guys are about to lose a large percentage of your community. I'm already seeing it everywhere online. Hopefully this is a wake-up call. You all need to look inwards. There's no shame in realizing maybe there are some things inside of me that need to be looked at and healed in order to be the best version of myself, and also, therefore, better for the people that are around me.
We just honestly might as well just wave bye-bye to the left at this point, because it's not going to be no coming back from this. Like, because we know that it was not a conservative who shot that man like that about his opinion. We know that it wasn't. Of course, we know it was a liberal. So even if this was all staged, it was staged to make the left look bad. So now nobody's going to vote for, like, oh my God, it was already bad this last election. 86% of the country voted right. Next time, baby, it's probably going to be 100%. We might as well just go ahead and inaugurate J.D. Vance at this point. Nobody's finna fucking vote for the left because y'all move off emotion and rage. Then you had the unmitigated gall to get on here and laugh about it. Like, you thought that was gonna make y'all look better? You getting on here talking about some, ooh, that's what he get. Like, hold on, wait a minute, sweetie, that just made y'all look worse. Like,
So here's the bigger picture. These clips aren't about everyone suddenly becoming Trump fans. They're about people tired of being told what box they have to live in, tired of purity tests, tired of screaming matches dressed up as progress. Some are leaving the left, some are leaving politics altogether, but the message underneath is the same. Labels don't solve real problems. And until we figure out how to disagree without dehumanizing, we're just going to keep losing people to cynicism, anger, or worse, violence. If you made it this far, drop your thoughts in the comments. Do you think people are actually leaving the Democratic Party in droves? Or is this just the loudest voices on TikTok making it look that way? And if you want more transformative commentary like this, don't forget to hit that subscribe button.